There's a pressure on social media that we don't talk enough about. In this video, I want to get into speaking about what I call the squeeze of social media. If you are somebody that has been on these apps for a long time and perhaps are creating a business or trying to build your platform or become more known or connect, whatever the reason is, and you've been spending a concentrated amount of time on these platforms, this video is for you. And I encourage you to watch it all the way through and share it. My intention really is to speak freeform and extemporaneously, but I do have a bit of some notes, and I actually have some support here. The opportunity that I feel like there's this double-edged sword that is happening with regards to social media. There's a lot of information now out there. There's books, there's lawsuits, there's all kinds of stuff out there about what this experience is doing to attention span, is doing to our brains, is doing to how it's influencing all of us, but it's been focused on younger people. And what's so interesting to me is that one of the things that I know definitely drains us as humans is when we are placed in situations where we are basically living in thought in authenticity. We're not really being ourselves. We're being a version of ourselves. And a lot of what's required, it feels like for most or many on social media is to perform. Now, one thing I want to note though is that there are some of us are performers. I realize that it's something I wouldn't want to claim. It's something I would want to reject, but I was raised by a performer. My father is a performer, was a performer. It was part of my youth, and I think I got away from it for all kinds of reasons. It's a whole other video. But I want to recognize that that does exist. And I also think we live in a society that has kind of made that, unless you are a true artist and you're on a stage for a reason, we've made it not such a nice thing, not such a good thing. Don't make yourself so important, don't center yourself. But yet social media really is about that. So it's this interesting ongoing double-edged sword. And the thing that I really wanted to lean into is the challenges that continue to come up when you are building a platform and building a business using these tools. And that includes Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and obviously YouTube. And now there's the others. There's now Substack, all this stuff that's shifting and changing, but specifically around where you end up creating videos. I want to lean into that. I have found that I really do enjoy creating video, especially talk to camera videos. This YouTube is a newer experience for me, but I've been posting for almost a year, 3 videos a day on TikTok. And before that, I was really focused on Instagram. I had joined Instagram years ago, and it was really a place of self-expression, and I really enjoyed that. And then at some point, I don't remember exactly when, but a few years back before I got involved in creating this business, I had really fallen off. I really wasn't as consistent. I wasn't engaged. And I think if I'm remembering now, I remember actually not ever looking for virality or anything back then because that's not why I was posting. But I remember that it does bring in that comparison or just sometimes just too much. At some point, I just got off of most social media. And then when I started to build my business, it started officially on December 1st of 2023. And I started a new Instagram handle, and I was really focused on Instagram. Now, my challenge with Instagram, what I appreciate about Instagram, but also as a challenge, is that it has the aesthetic. There's a lot of really beautiful creative things that are done and shared on Instagram. Yet, it seemed like what worked and would get people growth and would get people virality, which even though you may not think you need virality, virality often does give you more exposure. If nothing else, it triggers the psychology of people that go, oh, they must be smart. They must be important. They must have value here. Look at all the followers they have. It can sometimes get you a lot of people that aren't necessarily who you're seeking. But the point is, whether we admit it or not, there is often that pull of wanting to get more reach. Well, what I felt like was the norm to do that on Instagram was these 5 to 7 second pieces of B-roll that are spliced up and all these things and finding a trending audio. And unless you have a particular business, because I do know there's a woman that's on Instagram that uses that formula very well, and she inspires me deeply, but it's perfect for her business. For me, it was never really for the business I have been creating, it was not really for me. It was like I tried it, I did parts of it here and there, and I think that it can work to share a thought, an idea, a POV, which was popular for a long time, but it really wasn't, like, natural for me at all, which I don't think it is for a lot of people. But my point is that it's like this interesting journey if you're trying to create a business and these platforms are free, but yet we are forced into trying to trying to replicate or fulfill what we're told and what we learn becomes what works. And then they change how they do it, and so I just feel like it's such a I wanna acknowledge that. That's really one of the pieces of this video. I wanna acknowledge that that is challenging. It's challenging because it hooks the ego, like, there's all the dopamine stuff that we know about with the brain, but it also really hooks the parts of us that are being so brave and getting ourselves out there, and then, of course, it's a very natural thing to wanna see results, to just see something happen, so when you feel like you're missing the mark and it's not happening again and again and again, it can be really flattening, it can be really disillusioning, it can be really, like, questioning yourself. I mean, honestly, like, I am so proud of myself that I've stayed this course, but I also really am sharing this to say I acknowledge you if you've been in this journey for however long you have trying to like figure this out because it is intense and you really have to find ways to support yourself. And that's a little bit of what I wanted to share. I have some notes here. Yeah, the one of the main things that I'm aware of is like of course, if you're here to create a platform or to create a business and to reach people, reach your ideal customer or however you refer to it, then yeah, you're experimenting and you're trying things. And then of course, if you look at somebody's trying to tell you, there's a lot of businesses on Instagram teaching people how to use Instagram, and they get a lot of success quickly because they're teaching you how to use Instagram and everyone's trying to figure out how to use Instagram. So if that's not your business, it can be so easy to say, well, if they did it, I can do it. Well, but what they're selling is how to use this tool. It's not apples to apples. And no one really talks about that. And on top of it, you are, like I said already, kind of recycling and trying new things. And that in itself can be challenging. But then there's this overwhelm factor of like the flooding that you'll get. Like you'll just keep getting as soon as you click on something as then you'll get more and more and more and more. And I also feel like right now, my entire Instagram feed is all ads. It's ad after ad after ad. And even if I say I don't want it, no, thank you, I get more and more and more. It's so unsavory. It's so not my favorite place. And I really am disappointed because I feel like there's so many amazing creators on Instagram and then on TikTok, apparently now with everything that's gone on with how it was sold and all that stuff, there's an algorithm that's shifting there. So I just really wanted to acknowledge that reality. And I know that YouTube has its own. There's a whole path. I think YouTube is really growing and expanding. I don't obviously I wouldn't be posting these videos if I didn't think that this was a place for me to grow and expand and hopefully reach more people. It is a very big platform and it allows for this longer form content, which is really more my jam. And it's the same thing, right? You're posting and you're wanting to get subscribers. So I just wanted to acknowledge like that squeeze. It's like this what I keep referring to as this double-edged sword of like it's an opportunity to reach people and to express and to get your message out there. And it's also this challenge of it's like we have this opportunity every day to see if something will reach and will work, but it's also more often than not, especially if you haven't turned that corner, I think, where you could feel unsuccessful again and again and again and again. And that is real and challenging with all of the people that will flood your feed, it's so important to decide who you want to engage with, meaning, like, I remember when I first started, like, it was so and realized it was harder than I thought it was gonna be. Then it was me having to really discern, like, who am I going to listen to? And I gotta just either delete or block. Like, when I got on TikTok last April, I ended up blocking a lot of people because I just didn't want them coming up on my feed anymore. And I didn't wanna I wasn't on TikTok or Instagram to learn how to do it, I was on there to reach, right? But sometimes we need help, and then, of course, and now I'm being a little bit repetitive, but I just wanna acknowledge that that is real, and having, like, your blinders on after you get through that and realize it, like, that's so important, otherwise you will continue to be inundated, overwhelmed, and then doubt and question yourself. And what I also really wanted to get to in this video is that coming back to the beginning of that inauthenticity, because eventually it becomes a performance. And even if you are a performer, I feel like there's a lot of performing that is just for the sake of trying to figure it out. That's the word I'm using. And that's not good for us. That's not good for the soul. That's not good for our health. And I mean, obviously, I'm not sharing a brand new thought, but I just want to call this out for those of you who are creating an experience and a platform and a business. This is very real. This is like your business should work for you. And if you're building it, you're building it like I know I'm still building it and I'm working the business. And at some point, the business is really there for me. And my point being is that our ability to stay grounded, to stay connected, to be healthy is paramount, right? If the business is relying on you, then your care is job one. And it's really easy to lose that. It's really easy to miss that over time. And I'll just say from my own personal experience, I'm a Gen X woman. I was raised by a single mom. There was never enough growing up. So I grew up with a lot of scarcity and I became very ambitious and driven because I remember things like not being able to have things that all my friends did, and that was so uncomfortable. I remember that my mom was always worried about the lights and the bills, and there was that tension. And as a result of that, for me, I'll just say I related to it by wanting to be ambitious and really creating money and making money, mostly going into my career. It drove it, was really all about not wanting to replicate that experience for myself. And as a result of that, it just made me really, really driven in that way. What was the point I was trying to make about that? The point really also is that really connecting to, if you are building a business, like staying connected to your purpose and your why and recognizing that, I mean, it depends on what kind of business you're building. For me, I'm not here. If I was in my 20s or maybe even in my 30s and I even had this awareness and I knew about this whole life that was happening, maybe I would have created like a side hustle. And that's different. Maybe that would have been something that wasn't so like purpose driven for me. But that's not where I'm at. I'm building something that is very much mission led and is really about my platform and my thought leadership and my story and my service really is the word I want to use. That can put a pressure, it also makes it more meaningful, but it's also so important to then one of my challenges has been recognizing where I lose myself in it, and that's kinda, I think, what I was trying to say is that part of how I related to this business and my work came through how I grew up with this lack and this drive and this ambition, and that really, like, imprinted in me, like, this hard work and this idea that you have to work hard for everything, and that's how you get that's what makes success worthy, but also just the struggle, and not that I ever thought of it that way. I was very successful in many ways, and I loved so much of what I got to do in my career, but at the end of the day, like, hard work is not always that's not always rewarded, and that can be disappointing if we're not aware of, like, no one ever said in this life that anything is gonna be fair, we're here to learn and experience things, and that can be really confronting. So I have found myself becoming at times really like just a dog at a bone, trying to figure out this social media thing or trying to figure out this tool or and it's a energy leak, you know, I know that there's a part of me that's so I'm a builder and I like understanding things and I wanna figure things out. I mean, you've probably heard me say that 5 times already, so that's clearly a part of how my personality shows up, but it's also can be relentless and can be like that energy leak. So, I'm always trying to I mean, I'm much more mindful of it now, but it is one of my Achilles heels as I'm on this entrepreneur journey, and social media and the way it's designed, that's that double-edged sword. It can really be like the culprit. It can be like where a lot of that energy gets poured into. So, noticing your energy, becoming aware of how you're relating to it, and really looking at that with compassion and not making yourself wrong or thinking some part of you like really being mindful that you don't make anything about this journey mean something about you and your abilities because it's just there's so many pieces that are out of our control. And so all you do have control over is your own well-being and your own energy and choices and focus. So I think that is so key. And then if you are trying different things to learn social media or learn marketing or learn copywriting or learning the kind of style of how you want to communicate and create, be intentional with that and don't think that you have to like try to avoid doing multiple things. Well, first of all, it's difficult to measure results if you're trying multiple things, but it's just not realistic. It's overwhelming and that in itself can really be um a piece that can be like that Achilles heel I mentioned. I have some notes that say like, yeah, I mean, I think the challenge for me is that there's an editing that goes on. Of course, if we have to do these short form, there's a lot of true editing, but it also becomes like fitting ourselves into these boxes, and that can be really challenging. So being mindful of that because too much of that, as I said earlier, is not good for us. It's not good for the soul. Yeah, and then the paradox of we're building a business here, but it also can just take us from our essence, take us remove us from that. It can really kind of drive a wedge in there. So I think that's one of the key things that I continue to work with. And the piece that I'm if you're a Gen X woman or a woman over 40, perhaps, one of the things that I feel has been so challenging, and really just women in general, but I do think these younger generations are having a different engagement with life and I'm very happy about it. But we've done so much editing. We've done so much compartmentalizing. We've done especially if you're a woman of color, we've done so much to try to, like I mean, part of it is fitting into all these norms and all these constructs and all these, like, this is what you need to do to stay in this club, and, I mean, all of the professional there's so many constructs in this world that are really essentially you place them on a human being, and it's like, how much can you shapeshift who you are so that you can fit into this thing and be acceptable? And it's so unnatural. It's so unnatural. And as a result of that, you lose connection to your own sense of self. You lose connection to your authenticity. You could lose connection to what you actually even want and who you are. I mean, it can do all of that. So if you have felt all of that, there is nothing wrong with you. That is the outcome of being a human in the world as we know it today, where we're involved in all of these places, organizations and groups and communities that are constructed of a lot of rules. And the rules are often been determined by a very few that are often not updated. It could be so old, which is why I do believe the younger generations are relating to even work and values differently because there's no other way. Like they're just rejecting it altogether because it's so difficult to change anything anyhow and they don't want to be a part of it. They see what it's done to people. Oh, and also AI, like the trap of that. The trap of AI and advice is what the note I made here. I go down way too many rabbit holes and my work right now is getting much better at how I engage any AI tool, getting better with my prompts, not getting into dialogue too much because that is very natural for me. I'm very much a verbal processor, but that just especially with ChatGPT, that just really like can be so consuming and not have a resolve. And that is where like If you weren't trying to land something and take action and you're just exploring something, great. But most of the time when you're using one of these tools, you're trying to get to a completion to then take it and do something with it. And that can be really impossible if you're not using these tools with some sense. So there's a woman named Sabrina Romanoff who I follow, and if you don't know her, I encourage you to find her. She's on YouTube. She's made a company and sold it. She's trying to reach 1 million people and teach them about AI. So she's someone to trust and to follow. I think she's definitely one of the good ones. So the last piece I have here really is you have to protect your peace. You have to protect your peace. Your peace is basically your sense of self and you having access to that and being reconnected with that and noticing when you've gotten disconnected from that is job one. And I mean this like it's so important because ultimately that's what you want. All these things we're doing here in this world, it's like we're really just wanting to connect, belong, have love, and have peace or some iteration thereof. So just be mindful that your journey is not getting so suckered into all these pieces. Keep finding ways to protect your peace. Yes, it's invaluable, and the world needs more people being at peace. Even if there's stuff going on, I'm not saying ignore the world, but the reason why the world looks the way that it does is because most people do not have access to peace. And this, like what we're experiencing right now, is just this intense time in human history where so many people do not feel safe, they don't feel peace, they don't feel yeah, there's so much there. So I encourage you, I hope this was helpful, and I would love to hear what has been some of your learnings and what you have struggled with or what your triumphs. If you wanna share that in the comments, I'd love to hear from you, and I just encourage you, like, we're on the same journey. For all of us who are doing this work online and being in the creator economy, it's real, it's challenging, it can have its rewards, but it is also it's not for the faint of heart. So do not judge yourself, be kind with yourself, and protect your peace. Until next time.